Because there is a worst talk that UPSC aspirants doesn't have any discipline. There is a talk outside here. Because of the chairs we are rearranging. So that's why. We'll make sure all these chairs will be in that particular standard itself. Even while leaving. Oh. Yeah? Can you hear me? Online people? Come fast. Where are others? How much time will they need to eat? Yeah, the lunch came at around 1 o'clock. And it has been half an hour. Huh? Tell your friends. Eat fast. Yeah. Sometimes I won't even eat lunch properly because it will become late for you. That is my dedication to my job. So obviously that has to be reflected in you as well. No need. After you become civil service, eat like hell. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, most of you have to die. So one day missing the meal is not an issue. Yes? Not for you, yeah. You have to eat. I'm talking about others. Huh? Yeah? Done. You have seen, right? Yeah. Yes, yes.
He was the first person to get any call.
Yeah, who?
Obviously.
Come. Vanga, Bunny. Whichever language. Randi. Huh? They might take a different meaning. The people who know Hindi.
No, sir.
Nice. So, BA people, how many people were there? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. No, for now. Right? So, what do you know about environment and ecology? Environment and ecology, what is the difference? What do you know about it? Environment. Oh, yeah. No, it is not.
Studying of particular.
So first tell me what is environment.
So the place where biotic and aquatic live together.
Okay.
And many species interact.
So when you go to moon, right? So there is no environment there because there is no biotic and abiotic life other than you. It is a vacuum. It is something, right? When you go to space at zero gravity, do you have any environment over there? Huh? Environment is nothing but sum total of surroundings. An object of study. Quick! Don't ask permissions, as you all know. Right? Don't ask permission, just coming. Don't move the chairs. And what are your names, please? Vanita. Vanita. Aishwarya. Vanita Aishwarya. Vanita Aishwarya. It's very difficult. I'll take time. Right? Prabha. Himaja, after a long time. Right? No leaves further. Right? Yeah. So, environment is nothing but sum total of surroundings. Okay? So, an object of study, a subject. So, if you are selecting a particular organism, anything surrounding it is environment. Okay? So, the environment we have understood. And the next one we have to understand is ecology. OQs, ecology is the word coined by Ernest Haeckel. This is not, everyone can listen, but specifically for BA. Yeah. So it was actually coined by Ernest Haeckel, and OQs means home. Ology we know study of our home, right? So the ecology is actually dealing with the study of biotic and abiotic organisms and their interactions within their environment or the natural habitats or any other artificial habitats. This is what ecology is dealing with, right? When you're talking about study of our home, the earth is our home, right? So here, the environment and ecology, the science and technology, and as well as geography. So they are all together to some extent, right? The science and technology, environment and ecology, and this geography, right? So they are all intertwined. Okay, so that is the basic understanding of ecology, right? So next we have to understand what is biotic and abiotic components, right? So that is a fundamental understanding. What do you mean by biotic and abiotic components? Living and non-living organisms, right? Abiotic, non-living, biotic, all the life, right? So can you give me the example of abiotic factors? Light, pressure, temperature, humidity, right? Precipitation. So they are non-living things, right? They are called abiotic factors. And biotic, all living organisms. And when you talk about the all living organisms, right? We have a small difference over here. And don't move the chairs. Please sit in those chairs alone, right? Don't move the chairs, right? When you talk about biotic, right? We'll be talking about all the microorganisms. That means all the bacteria, right? All the fungi, all the algae, the plantae, animalia, right? All these comes under biotic factors. But here, the one thing we have to remember is the viruses are called non-living organisms. The virus, no, the bacteria are also parasites. Even the higher organisms are also parasites. There are insects which are parasites. The parasitic means the relationship which one organism shares with the other. The parasite can be any organism, right? If I am feeding on you, causing you harm, I will become a parasite, right? It doesn't have to be a specific virus or anything, right? Anything can be a parasite. Okay, the viruses are called non-living organisms because there is not so much content in the viruses, right? Because the viruses are made up of either the protein coat or the nucleic acid, right? That's all. Either the protein coat, the outer covering is the protein coat, and within that nucleic acid. And the nucleic acid can be both the DNA and RNA. Sometimes the viruses has only the nucleic acid. That entire only nucleic acid is called the virus, or entire protein code is called the virus. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. So because of its simplest structure, we cannot call it living, right? It doesn't live until or unless it goes within the host organism, right? Only within the host. Please come fast. Right? Only within the host it actually multiplies. Right? So that's why the viruses are called non-living organisms. That's why it is very difficult to characterize. That's why in the 5 kingdom classification of R.H. Whittaker, right? He did not classify viruses. Right? In the 5 kingdom classification, we have the Monera, Protista, Algae, Plantae, Animalia. Right? Among these 5, there are no viruses because it is very difficult to characterize the viruses because there are no cell organelles within the organism. Cell organelles in cell parts. Nothing else is there. Right? That is biotic and abiotic. Right? So every one of you got the basic understanding of environment and ecology, and we'll continue this topic in our environment and ecology class for BA. And for BCA, for them, environment and ecology is done. The few acts are remaining. Right? The few acts. So we'll be wrapping up of environment and ecology. Now we have to start for you. I don't know how you will be ready, but I will not teach as many concepts as I have taught them. Right? Only few concepts. The outlay. Okay. Just a minute. Yeah, I can send one of you. You know my table, right? No? Say. Anyone who knows my table? Say. On my table, there will be few empty books, means the previous books and all. So bring at least 2 books, so that you do not have to clear the pages from you for attendance. Proxy. Alright? So we were talking about the landforms and the revolution. Right? So you remember this topic? How many of you were absent during this topic? All the boys are present. Wonderful, yeah, I love you. Right? Yeah, please. And don't expect any gifts on Valentine's Day just because I said I love you. Right? I won't be giving any gifts. Okay? Yeah? Chocolates? Yeah. Forget about the chocolates. Okay? So, the landforms and the revolution. Right? The landforms are all because of erosion and deposition. This is what we have discussed. The landforms are because of erosion and deposition landforms. Landform is nothing but land formation, how the peripheral land is being formed. Right? That is because of erosion. What do you mean by erosion? Some larger chunks of solid particles are becoming smaller. Right? Because of a few denudation agents. Right? Because of few agents. Yeah? Yes, withering. Right? And those are being carried away by a few agents and they are getting deposited at some other place, forming landforms. And last time in the Ender school, we have discussed about the desert landforms like sand dunes. Right? So how the sand dunes are being formed? The sand which is actually present in one area is being taken away by the force winds. Right? And they are depositing at some other area, forming the sand dunes. Likewise, the land formation, different types of land formation are actually formed. Right? So as you can see, the landforms are because of endogenic forces. Endogenic force processes means endo. So these are the erosion agents. Rain, wind, glaciers, and the sea waves. Right? They are eroding the landforms, creating the new different landforms. Right? And deposition, it is constructional, whereas erosion is destructional. When a mountain is there, gradually the mountain over the period of millions of years, a mountain will be transformed into a plateau because of erosion. Right? And the plateau, so because of the movement of rivers from the plateau they were there, so obviously the plateaus will become plains, the flat plains. Right? So one landform is being transformed into the other landform because of erosion. Right? That is a destructional process, whereas deposition is a constructional one, because it is taking all the material from one place and it is creating some other new landform. right? That is construction. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, blue goods. Yeah. Okay. And geomorphic process are imperceptible. So we will explain this point. Very easy. Why? Why, sir? Exactly. You cannot perceive them. That the change is happening, right? It takes such a long time that in the human life you cannot really see the changes happening over there, right? That is what we call it as geomorphic process imperceptible, right? Right? And there are a few independent controls of the creation of the landforms, the stability of the sea level, tectonic stability, and the climate, right? That we discussed. And next, so in the past class, we have discussed about the different landforms created because of running water. This is what we are discussing, right? We have discussed a few landforms, and the rest of the landforms we have to finish in this particular class, right? So because of running water, a few landforms are created because recently the floods, Uttarakhand, right? We discussed yesterday in the class, and we discussed how the prelims questions can be asked from the particular current affairs, right? So what is the reason for the floods? Overflow of the water, glacial burst, right? A huge chunk of ice got displaced and fell into the water, and the water dislocated, right? And resulted in floods, right? When the floods are being created, so obviously anything within the path of the floods will be taken away. And after this gradient has been decreased, after the gradient is decreased, these all components are deposited of that particular area. That way, so because of the running water, the many different landforms are created, right? So because of erosion that the water is actually resulting in, and all the eroded particles are being deposited, and somewhere or other. And we have already discussed running waters are because of the gradient and gravity. These are the two forces that which are actually forming the different landforms, right? The first one is the gradient, the next one is the gravity. These are two important forces. What do you mean by gradient? Slope, right? So difference, some difference, we call it a gradient, right? Difference in height is a gradient. If the gradient is really high, the velocity of the water will be very high. If the gradient is less, the velocity will be very less, right? And finally, ultimately the gravity, right? Different landforms are created because of gravity, because it is being pulled, right? So there are two types of flows: overland flow and the linear flow, right? Overland flow and the linear flow. What do you mean by overland flow? Don't. What happened? Huh? Chair is not good. Replace the chair. How does it will come here now? Okay, settled? Yes. So what do you mean by overland flow? One minute, we give a chance, ladies first. Who said? Yes, Anu? Amount of land will be penetrated. Land will be penetrated. Land is penetrated. What is penetrated into? Soil. And the rest of the water will be flowing over. So that is called the overland flow. Right? Where will the land penetrate? Land will not penetrate. But when there is a precipitation, right? When there is precipitation that is happening, right? So what is happening? The land. So within the land, so the water will be going into the soil. After the water goes into the soil becomes saturated. It cannot take any more amount of the water, right? It cannot take any more amount of the water. So the water outpours and flows over the land. So that is called the overland flow. Right? Clear, everyone? What is overland flow? Yes. So, hey, you're back. Great. So remember, okay. Imagine in such a way that, so when you have rice in a bowl and you'll be washing the rice before you cook, right? So when you put it under the tap, so some amount of the water will be going into the gaps of the rice, right? And you cannot see the water, right? After the water got saturated with the water, all the spaces are saturated with water, the water comes up and it flows. That flow of water is known as overland flow, right? After it got saturated, right? The soil cannot hold any more water. Then the water flows on the top, right? So what will happen when the velocity of the gradient is high? So the water flows at a very fast rate, taking all the soil down, right? We call that slides as landslides, right? So when the rainfall is there and the gradient is high, and when there are no trees to hold the soil, what will happen? Because of the overland flow, the entire topsoil will be removed, right? So that is overland flow. It causes sheet erosion, right? So entire top layer is being removed like a sheet, right? That is called sheet erosion, right? So overland flow causes sheet erosion, and it has narrow to wide paths, right? It can be either narrow or wide paths. The entire land area is sliding down, right, for the erosion. And because of the friction, right, minor or major quantities of the materials from the surface of the land are removed in the direction of the flow, right? So obviously, so when the soil is trying to move, there will be some friction that is actually resulting in, right? So because of the friction, the minor or the major quantities of the material from the surface of the land are removed in the direction of the flow. So as the what is actually moving in the direction across the gradient, so obviously, so because of the friction, what is happening? The resulting in moving of the particles slowly in the direction of the flow, right? The small or the narrow rills are formed, right, because of this friction. So these are called the rills, right? These are called rills, small paths, right? Because of the friction, what is happening? So the water could not move totally. So obviously, a narrow or the wide paths are actually created, which are called rills, right? So, and the rills are joined together to form gullies, right, which are much wider and deeper, right, than the rills, right? The rills are actually joined together to form gullies, right? So the gullies further deepen, widen and lengthen and unite as a network of valleys, right? So we are talking this particular thing where when the rivers are at the origin, this is how the rivers are actually being originated, right? So initially, so when we see the birthplace of Ganga, it will be just a small stream, right? And all the small streams will be coming together to form a larger stream, the gullies, right? All the gullies will be meeting together to form the valleys, right? In that way, the rivers are actually formed, right? So tributaries are joined together to form the main river, and from the main river we have the at the end distributaries, right? That is how the rivers are formed. So across the length of the river, so rivers are resulting in different types of landforms, right? From the origin till the mouth of the sea, right? There are different types of landforms that are being created by running water that we are going to study. And the next one is the linear flow, right? What do you mean by linear flow? Exactly. So the linear flow is something where the gradient is really high and the velocity of water is really high. So obviously it will be flowing in a linear path, right? Without any turns, right? That is called the linear flow, right? When you are talking about the floods, right? Can you see the formation of the rills and the gullies? No, it flows at a very faster pace and wherever the path is narrow, so obviously it will go in that direction, right? Along the slope, along the gradient. So that is called the linear flow. Clear this slide? Right? These are the rills. Right? And these are the gullies. Right? And resulting in streams. Right? Clear? That is a small narrow. Right? Where the further widen and deepen, forming the gullies. From the gullies we have the valleys. Right? From the gullies we have the valleys. Okay? And we have already discussed about the different stages of river. Right? We have discussed about the different stages of a river. So there are three stages: youth stage, mature stage, and the old stage. Right? Youth, when the rivers are actually being originated. Right? They are starting at that particular point. That is an young age. So during the young age, they have the less number of streams. Right? So when you see the origin of Ganga or the Indus, obviously there will be very less number of streams. There won't be many. The source will be very limited. From that, a few things join together. So there are less number of streams and there is less integration. The less integration because the gradient will be really high at the origin. Right? The gradient will be very high. So because of that, so obviously they continuously flow without any integration. They just move at the origin. And the V-shaped valleys are common. What do you mean by V-shaped valleys? Exactly. Right? The valley is nothing but the region which is actually deeper than the other surface. So V-shaped valleys are the ones which initially, so obviously the slope is in this direction. So across the slope in the V-shaped valleys, the water flows, right? Because the water is actually collected from the mountains, they move across the gradient and they start moving from the V-shaped valleys, right? So the V-shaped valleys are very common in the young stage, right? And the next one, stream divides or swampy marshy areas, right? So where the streams are actually dividing, right? Those are the areas. That means when the rivers are actually flowing across the gradient, they'll reach to some area where the land area will be totally swampy or the marshy. That means it is saturated with the waters. Those are wetlands, right? They'll come to that particular area, and the waterfalls and the rapids are common. So what do you mean by waterfall? So obviously, so there is some height, right? There is an end point, and finally the water starts falling over that particular area. We call it waterfalls, right? Everyone loves waterfalls, right? Because we can take shower without a shower, right? So and rapids. What are rapids? The faster movement of water are called rapids, right? Because of the high gradient, the water moves at a very fast pace. So those are called rapids. These are very common in the young stage because of the gradient, right? And ultimately, if the gradient is there, gravity will be there, right? And next one, the mature stage. In the mature stage, there will be more number of streams, right? In the mature stage, there will be more number of streams, and there will be more integration of the streams. This is where in the mature stage, where all the tributaries meet, right? All the tributaries, there will be greater integration into the main river, and the deep V-shaped valleys are actually present, right? So obviously, so when the stream is very small, right? So the narrow, small V-shaped valleys are actually formed. When the velocity of the water and the volume of the water increases, the deeper V-shaped valleys are actually formed. Okay, and there are wider floodplains. How the floodplains are actually formed? Who will explain on the board? Okay, this will go. How the floodplains are formed? Who will explain? I love this silence when I teach, not when I ask you to explain. Who will explain how the floodplains are formed? You know. If I teach, you will be like, oh, this much only now we already know. Who will? Floodplains. Yesterday we discussed about flood, right? How the flood might result in the floodplain? Huh? Floods. Plains. I want. Huh?
Lake BCA. Where is the CO record? CO record.
Okay. Hmm? 1 minute. 1 minute. Land will become plain. How? Exactly. Right? So, what is happening? Initially, the river is flowing in this direction. Right? So, because of the overflow, so what is happening? The water is actually coming out of the river, right? And leveling this particular area, the sides. And after that, what is happening? Because of the differences in the volume of the water that the river is actually getting, so it will change its courses, right? The river changes courses, resulting in larger floodplains across the river. Exactly, right? So the force will be there on the edges and the banks. So obviously, what will happen? It will cut gradually, forming the larger floodplains along the river length. That is how the river floodplains are actually formed. Okay. So the wider floodplains are in the mature river stage, and the meanders are present. What do you mean by meanders? The turns. Right. The meanders are nothing but the turns of the river. Right. These are called meanders. Right. And the rapids and waterfalls disappear. So obviously, plain gradient is not so much. So how do you get rapids and waterfalls? You will not get, right? Because we are talking about plains. There is not enough gradient to have a waterfall, right? So the next one, cold states, right? There are smaller tributaries. The larger tributaries are not there. The smaller tributaries join the river, and tributaries are very few in number, right? And the floodplains are very common. So obviously, right? So natural leaves and oxbow lakes are also present in the older states. What do you mean by natural leaves? Exactly, raised portion of land across the banks, right? We call it leaves. Right? The raised portion across the river. If the river is actually present like this is the depth. Alright? So obviously due to the flooding, what will happen? Some soil particles are deposited on the banks. Right? So increasing the height of the banks compared to that of the other area. So these are called leaves. Right? The raised portion across the banks of a river. Right? So because of the floodings, so we call them leaves. Right? And oxbow. Yeah? V-shaped valleys we will not see so much because the water continuously flows across the gradient, right? The leaves not so much, right? But in the floodplains you will be seeing the deposition. Okay, that's why in the old days you will be seeing the leaves and all. Okay, and naturally and oxbow lake. What do you mean by oxbow lake? Exactly. Some amount of the water body is separated from the main river. So because of deposition. Right? So when the rivers are actually flowing through meanders, right? So here the velocity will be high, here the velocity will be less. Velocity is less, the velocity is more. Right? When the velocity of the river is less, so obviously it cannot take the sediments faster, so sediments will be deposited, resulting in the separation of this river from the main river, forming oxbow lakes. Right, forming oxbow lakes. Okay, those are called oxbow lakes. Right, some amount of the water body is separated from the main river across the meander because of the deposition. Okay, so those are called oxbow lakes. Right, and the most of the landscape is just above the sea level, just above the sea level, because we are talking about plains. Right, and monadnocks are common. What do you mean by monadnocks? You remember? You do not remember? Image. What do you say? Speak. Mother.
When there is a huge rock over there, the river cannot overflow it, they become across.
Exactly. So obviously, when the rivers are actually moving across the meanders, there can be strong rock particles across over there, where some central bodies are actually present across the curves. So those are called the monadnocks, right? Those are common, right? So it eroded all the area surrounding this particular rock, right? And it caused the various kind of things where the streams can flow very easily, but it left this just like that. So there are other images as well where you can actually like this, right? So the river is actually flowing in the circular fashion and it is moving happily, leaving the central part like that, right? Because it is a hard rock, it cannot be eroded very easily. So these kind of rocks are called monadnocks, right? That is a kind of landform. Okay, that is a kind of landform. Monadnocks are present in the older river streams, right? Older river streams. And river rejuvenated. What do you mean by river rejuvenated? Rituraj. What do you mean by river rejuvenated? Exactly, right? What is river rejuvenation? So obviously when the river is actually moving across the plains now, right? So obviously the velocity decreases and sometimes because of huge deposition, the water flow changes in the different directions, right? As small streams, and they in turn become new rivers. That is called river rejuvenation. Yeah, rejuvenation means rebirth, right? So again, forming a fresh river, right? River is actually becoming new again. So the stages continue. It's a river rejuvenation from the old river. Some stream is separated. When one stream is separated, that is again young river. And again, the end will have the mature one and finally the old one. That is called river rejuvenation. Okay, that stages continue again in a river. The another tributaries will join that. Right? We are talking about basin. Right? So obviously only when there is a gradient it can move. When there is a hill, so obviously the water cannot move up the hill. So obviously when there is a gradient it gets separated and it starts forming. And because there is a basin over here, because there is a gradient over here, the other streams will also join and they form a bigger river and the mature phase and finally the old phase. It continues. That is called river rejuvenation. Okay. So this is in the old phase. This river. So what is happening because of the deposition? Some stream got separated because there is a gradient over this particular area. There is a slope. When there is a slope, so what is happening is the rainfall is actually present over this particular area. Different streams. The rills all will merge and form the gullies, and finally the bigger C-shaped valleys, and the river might flow in some other direction across the gradient. So again, this is the end phase, right? Rills means this is the end phase, and this is the gullies. So this is all the end phase. This is the old phase. This is the mature phase. Sorry, the mature and old. So in that way, it again continues in the different direction. Exactly. Yes, it can form another new river. That is river rejuvenation. Okay? Clear? So the next one, erosional landforms. Sorry, this is the thing we should yeah. Right? The valleys. What do you mean by valleys? Right? Exactly. Two uplands. The V shape, some or U shape, which of the things that may be, right? So which are very deeper than the natural surface, right? Because of erosion, we call them valleys, right? So the valleys start as small and narrow rills, right? So obviously rills are nothing but a kind of valley because it is actually deeper than the surface, right? But it is very shallow. It is just few centimeters deeper. So they are going and different river streams are actually meeting, forming deeper and much wider rills. Right? So sorry, much wider rills and gullies. Yes, they are forming gullies. The gullies are again joining together, forming valleys. Right? This is what we have discussed. Right? So initially they are forming as rills, and the rills are developing as valleys. Because across the gradient the velocity increases, so erosion will be more. If the velocity is more, forming deeper V-shaped valleys. Okay? And the rills will gradually develop into long and wide gullies, and the gullies will further deepen, widen, and lengthen to give rise to valleys. Right? So they will become very large, because when we go to valleys, it will be very large because the rivers are very large and the flow of water is very high, right, across the valley. Okay? And many types of valleys like V-shaped valleys, gorges, and canyons are actually present. So we will be discussing about V-shaped valley and gorges and canyons. So what are they? How they look? What are the properties? Okay? Different valleys are V-shaped valleys, gorges, and canyons. So the V-shaped valley, we do not have to specifically speak about V-shaped valley. Why we do not have to why we do not have to discuss? Because the valley in a V shape, right? So clearly like this, that is a V-shaped valley, right? This is a V-shaped valley, right? The water flows across the gradient, across the slope. That is a V-shaped valley. So the gorges, what are gorges? The gorges are deep valleys with very steep to straight sides. So as you can see over here, they are very steep, right? They are very steep and almost like parallel, right? The sides are very straight. They are not V-shaped. They are not inclined, right? They are like this. So those kind of valleys are called gorges. Those kind of valleys are called gorges, right? Which are almost straight sides and which are very deep. So obviously it is very deep. So you can see the human over here, a small human being, right? So they are very deep and almost like plane. V-shaped valleys, there is an inclination where the water flows in between. That is called the gorges. The gorge is almost equal in width at its top as well as its the bottom, right? Because of erosion. Yes, withering only, right? Erosion, withering, right? So obvious, right? The hard rock, it takes time for erosion. It is not that hard rock will not erode. It takes time compared to that of the soft rock, right? If there is CaCO2, calcium carbonate, yeah. If the calcium carbonate is there, the water is enough for erosion, right? It doesn't have to take so much time. If marble is there, it takes time. Yeah, caves are formed, right? In that way. So erosion and deposition depends upon, we discussed in the previous slide. Actually, I skipped that part, right? So many factors depend upon the formation of the landforms. What are the different factors? The type and structure of a particular rock material, the folds, faults, joints, fractures, hardness and softness, permeability and impermeability. So depending upon these different factors, the erosion depends. Right? So erosion depends upon different factors. Right? So these are the different factors. Not every rock erodes in the same way or in the same fashion. Okay? And the gorges formed in the hard rocks, right? So obviously that is the reason why the parallel almost sides are actually formed, because it is very difficult for erosion, right? So the next one, canyons, right? The canyon is characterized by steep step-like side slopes and maybe as deep as gorges, right? So they are as deep as gorges, almost, right? But they are step-like, right? They are step-like features, okay, rather than almost parallel, right? Almost steep, right? The canyon is characterized by steep step-like side slopes and maybe as deep as gorges. The canyon is wider at its top than at the bottom, right? So here there is no difference. There is no much difference for the gorges, right? At the bottom, whatever the width is there, The almost same width is there at the bottom, at the top as well. But when it comes to the canyons, at the bottom it is right narrow, where at the top it is very wide, as you can see here. At the bottom it is very narrow, and whereas at the top it is different. Right? Whereas here that is not the case. It's almost steep, same size. So that is the difference. The canyon is wider at its top and then its bottom, and canyons commonly formed in horizontal bedded sedimentary rocks. Right? What do you mean by horizontally bedded sedimentary rocks? You know. No, I'm not talking about the soft rock or the hard rock. I'm talking about sedimentary rock. So obviously most of the rocks are soft rocks only, kind of, depending upon the type of rock. So as you can see, the sedimentary rocks are formed by the deposition of different types of soil, right? Which are hardened because of the pressure, right? So whatever the sand particles the wind is actually bringing in this particular geographical area is being deposited over here, right? And the deposition continues for a very prolonged period of time, right? So gradually what happened over this particular rock particle or the soil particles, the other soil particles gets deposited, right? So over the period of time, this entire deposited rock particle will be compressed, forming sedimentary rocks because of high pressure, right? Forming sedimentary rocks. So depending upon the material composition of the soil, so obviously they will be eroded in a different fashion. That is the reason why the step-like structures are formed, because layer by layer sedimentary rocks are formed, right? They are not that, they are on the surface. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're not talking of, no. Deep sea landforms are totally different, right? So deep sea, okay. So this is a tectonic plate, right? When you're talking about a tectonic plate, we have two different types of tectonic plates: continental, oceanic. Continental plate and oceanic plate, right? Both the continental plate and the oceanic plate are mostly formed by igneous rocks, right? They are formed by igneous rocks, no doubt about it. Either what do you say? There are two types of igneous rocks: endogenic, endogenic and exogenic. Endomorphic, endomorphic and exomorphic, right? Yeah, I forgot. What are they? Two types of igneous rocks? Extrusive and intrusive. Wow. Yeah, extrusive and intrusive rocks, depending upon the way they cool. Right? Intrusive rocks are really hard because they do not come out. Right? And the extrusive rocks are cooled from the outside. They have come from the outside and they cooled very rapidly. Right? One way or the other, they are the igneous rocks. Over the igneous rocks, when the igneous, when the on the top layers, just few meters over the continental plate, what is happening? All the igneous rocks are being eroded. Erosion is happening, and that eroded particles are being carried away by different agents, right? And they are depositing on other igneous rocks, the hard rocks, right? They are depositing somewhere else. So obviously, what will happen? It will continue for millions of years. For the soil which we are harvesting, right, to be formed, it took millions of years. It did not happen in a day. The soil formation will not happen in a day. It takes millions of years, right? So when you dig the soil, you can find different colors or different layers, kind of thing. Those are the sedimentary rocks, right? So those are the sedimentary rocks. As maybe I can show you. Yeah. This is how the sedimentary rocks are formed. So this might have formed at a particular time. This might have formed at a different time, right? So in this way, the sedimentary rocks are formed layer by layer over the period of years, and they get compressed on the surface itself, not in the seas. On the surface, they get compressed because of pressure, and they form as solid rocks. Yeah. The human pressure and atmospheric pressure, gravity. So all these are acting on the rock, right? Slowly what will happen, you keep moving along the line, so you're putting pressure on that particular rock, they form solid, right? In that way, they form sedimentary rocks, right? So obviously because of different layers, so obviously they will be eroded in a different fashion, right? In that way, because the sedimentary rock that is actually being formed over there, right? So we have different types of landforms, right? Right? So that's why we have steep step-like structures because of sedimentary rocks, right? Which are horizontally bedded. Horizontally bedded sedimentary rock. So obviously, depending upon which material resulted in the formation of these sedimentary rocks, so obviously that will be eroded in the step-like manner. Okay. And for you to remember, for these to happen, the entire surface is actually eroded because of the movement. So it might have been few million years ago, the river might have formed actually at this particular area, and slowly it eroded, and became deeper and deeper and formed the valleys. The valleys doesn't happen just like that, right? When the river is actually flowing on the surface, slowly the bottom part will be eroded continuously, will become deeper and deeper, forming the valleys, right? So just because I pour a mug of water and say that, no, it won't happen that way, right? It takes time. Okay. So the gorges and the canyons, right? They take millions of years for the formation of the landforms. Okay. Next one, potholes and plunge pools. What do you mean by potholes and plunge pools? This happen in the valleys, right? So when there is a high gradient and when the water is actually falling from an altitude down to the other layer, right? The potholes and the plunge pools are actually formed. So what do you mean by potholes? The circular depressions in the river bed. So obviously what will happen? You know that, right? When you pour water on the sand, so obviously some deep depression is actually formed in that particular area, right? So those are called potholes, right? The circular depression. The water is flowing, right, from an altitude, right? The water is flowing, Niagara waterfalls. So obviously, what will happen? Some circular depression will actually be formed, right, because of the water that is flowing. So that is called the potholes. Pebbles and boulders get collected in those depressions and get rotated by the flowing water, and consequently, the depression grows in dimensions. So what will happen? So obviously, the smaller rock particles will actually withdraw. So obviously, that is what the river is doing, right? The smaller pebbles, the smaller rock particles will get deposited, and they will be collected within those potholes, right? And the water, what is happening when the water is continuously flowing, it will make those rock particles or the small pebbles to actually move continuously within those potholes, resulting in the potholes becoming bigger and bigger and deeper. Understood? Yeah, exactly. A kind of, yes, right? And for an ice to melt, right? Right? For an ice to become water, it is always better to use the cool water rather than the hot water. Yeah. Which one? Warm water? I did not understand. For an ice to become water, it is always better to use the colder water rather than the warmer water. That you find. For the colder water, it is easier to transfer the heat compared to that of the hot water. You find it. Okay? In the next class we will discuss. That you find it. You know, I have a professor at IIT Kharagpur. He is an expert. He is a pioneer in X-ray crystallography. He is an expert in X-ray crystallography. You know X-ray crystallography? The technique which finds the crystal structure of solid particles. Right? We got the DNA structure because of X-ray crystallography, and we got the structure of salt, of the diamond, of the graphite because of X-ray crystallography. He is the world's famous scientist in X-ray crystallography, and he was actually teaching us biophysics, right? X-ray crystallography, and we had no clue what he was teaching, right? How the crystal lattice is actually formed, how when X-rays are penetrated through the solid rock particles, how they get diffracted, and depending upon how the rays are diffracted from the X-ray, right? How to analyze the crystal structure. When he was explaining, we had no clue, right? And when we ask a question in the class, he will be like, "How would I know? You have to find it." In his Bengali accent. How would I know? You have to find it. And I was like, what kind of man is he? Right? An ideal professor who is not even answering to the question. Right? He used to say, I don't know, you have to find it. And after we verified so much, we have no clue. We did not understand anything. Finally, we went together and sir, we did not understand. And he made us sit in his cabin for 3 hours or 4 hours probably, and he explained everything in detail. Exactly. Right? Obviously, the transfer of heat has to happen. So in that way, what I have understood is, first we have to let the students work out about their problems, right? About the doubts. Once they work out, they'll come up with genuine issues. All the simple things you can find it on internet. Right? Other than that, if there are anything, just come to me. He used to be like that. Right? He was our HOD, A.K. Das, Amit Kumar Das, and he looks funny. Very funny. His wife is extraordinarily beautiful. Yes. And when we saw his wife, how did she marry him? It was like that. And we told directly to the sir, "Sir, your wife is very beautiful." And he was like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." He used to enjoy that. Right? Such an amazing faculty I have, other than one faculty. Right? He was extraordinarily arrogant. Just because a PhD student had taken leave for 1 day without informing, he expelled him. For 2 years, he did his research. Right? For the PhD. And all the 2 years of work is useless. Professor asked him to get out. Those cases are also there. Right? So, one of our friends asked me to repeat. Right? So, Babu Gowda. So, okay. Something came into my mind. Some other example which I cannot give you. Okay? What do you got that? Okay. So, whenever you are pouring water from an altitude, okay? No, it's okay. Oh God. Sometimes the mind is very dangerous. So, whenever the water is actually flowing from a higher altitude, where are you going? Stay. What? I did not give you permission to leave. Go. Anyone has water? Yeah. Drink. Yeah, you don't have to feel shy. Everyone does it. What? So obviously, when the water is actually flowing at a higher altitude, we are calling them valleys, right? So when the water is flowing at a very fast rate, so obviously it will form some depressions called the potholes. So it is forming depressions called the potholes. And in the potholes, what will happen? The gradually, so the depression has actually formed. In this depression, the small pebbles or the small rock particles will get accumulated, right? So obviously, wherever the depression is there, they will be collected over that particular area. And because the water is continuously flowing, they move around, right? They move around, making this depression the larger and deeper. Right? Those are called potholes. That is the reason why our parents warn us when we are entering into the rivers, because we do not know where sudden depression comes. Right? Where the sudden depression comes, we cannot anticipate. Suddenly we will be like, hi mummy, and after that, bye mummy. Without even telling where we'll go. Right? Along with the water. So next one is the plunge pools. Right? Next one is the plunge pools. And they are formed at the foot of the waterfalls. Right? They are formed at the foot of the waterfalls over this particular area, and there are large deep holes at the base of the waterfalls, right? They are called the plunge pools. Yeah, there is one difference. Sorry, I discussed the plunge pools for potholes. The potholes are not plunge pools. I mean, to say the plunge pools are actually formed at the foot of the waterfalls, whereas the potholes, when the water is actually flowing, right? When the water is actually flowing, there will be sometimes, because of soft rock material, there will be some depressions that are happening, and along those depressions, the pebbles are collected, and when the water is flowing, the pebbles inside, the rock particles which are inside the pothole, keep rotating, making it wider. Right? That is called the potholes. Right? In the normal rivers, you can actually find the potholes. In the waterfalls, we can find the plunge pools. That is the difference. Right? When the rivers are actually flowing, sometimes there are depressions that are actually happening because the rock particles keep moving in that particular fashion. Right? So they cause the depression and they get sedimented in that particular area, and with the movement of the water, they become deeper and wider. They are called the potholes. Right? Across the river, you can see. During the waterfalls, right, you can see the plunge pools. Okay. Again, it changed. So, right, the river is actually flowing this way, and this is the waterfall. So, what is happening at the base of the ground? So, when the particles are actually moving, because it is a soft rock over this particular area, so there will be a depression that is actually formed. There is a depression that is being formed, and within the depression, the rock particles or the pebbles will get deposited. And with the flow of the water, what is happening? They keep moving within the depression, making it larger and deeper. These are called potholes. And when the water falls are happening, so they call the depressions over here. They are called the plunge pools. Okay. The next one, incised or entrenched meanders. Incised or entrenched meanders, right? So they are deep and wide meanders and found cut in the hard rocks, right? The meanders which are actually formed between the hard rocks we have called incised or entrenched, right? So, and difference between incised meanders and the meanders over the flood and the delta plains. So, as you can see here, the meanders over here, when the hard rock is actually present, it is very difficult for the water to cut it, right? To cut the rock particles. Slowly, what will happen, right? The step by step, they start eroding the rock very slowly for a very long period of time. So, when the hard rocks are actually present, right, the meanders that are actually formed are incised or entrenched meanders, right? In the presence of hard rock, in between the hard rocks, we are called incised or entrenched meanders, and these meanders cannot cause any floodplains. They cannot result in the floodplains. These incised or entrenched, because they cannot cut the rock particles as much as the normal sedimentary rocks can actually be, right? So because of this particular problem, right, no floodplains can be formed in the areas of hard rocks, right? You can see the meanders in that particular area, but you cannot see any floodplains, right? But normal meanders, they can result in the floodplains, right? Because erosion can keep continuously, it can happen continuously, but hard rocks it is very difficult, right? That's why they cut perpendicularly rather than wide, right? So because of the hard rock, they keep cutting perpendicularly, forming the valleys, yes, but they cannot make plains, okay, because of hard rock. Those are called incised or entrenched meanders, right? Incised or entrenched meanders. Next one, river terraces. What do you mean by river terraces? You already know the term terrace because we have studied terrace farming, right? We have already discussed about the terrace farming, so we are familiar with the word terrace, right? What do you mean by terrace farming? Who will tell me?
So the step-by-step farming.
Exactly, step-by-step farming, right? In the hill slopes, you can see this kind of farming, right? That is called the terrace farming, a step-by-step, right? So that erosion can be prevented, right? Or else if just the rain falls, the entire soil will be eroded easily. All the agriculture, it is waste. Yeah. Yeah, tea plants. Yes. Terrace farming, right? River terraces or surfaces making the old valley floor or the floodplain levels, right? River terraces or surfaces marking old valley floor or the floodplain levels. As you can see, so we are discussing about the floodplains or old valley floor. That means generally what I said initially the surface is like this, right? And across the gradient, right? It will be cutting some area, right? And gradually what will happen? It will cut some other area like this. Gradually it will result in the floodplains or the valleys. So what these things are happening, which are actually in the form of terrace. So these are the initial levels of valley, the old valleys, which are actually present previously, right? And they got deeper and deeper gradually over the period of time, right? And or the floodplain levels. Initially the floodplain how it used to be and now how it is, right? That is actually being shown. So that is the reason why we call the river terraces. As you can see in the example here. Right? See. So initially it used to be this is the plain. Right? The gradually what happened? So because of the erosion continuously, the step by step, the feature has actually resulted because of erosion around that particular area. So these are called river terraces. Right? The step by step nature. So we have two different types. It is because of the vertical erosion that is one of the most important point. Right? The vertically it is eroding rather than the horizontal erosion. Right? Right? The vertical erosion. Right? The side by side. The vertically it is eroding, right? Resulting in the terrace, step-like structures. Right? So we have two different types: paved terraces and unpaved terraces. Right? Paved terraces and unpaved terraces. The paved terraces of the regular landform. So how the steps are present on this side will be present on the other side, on the other bank. Those are the paved terraces, right? And the river terraces may occur at the same elevation on the either side. So they were the same elevation as you can see over here, right? They are at the same level. Right? They are called the paved terraces. But as you can see, the unpaved terraces, they are not at the same level. Right? So they are called unpaved terraces. How they are formed? Unpaved terraces, right? They are typical in areas of slow uplift of land or whether the water column changes or not uniform along the both the banks. So that means if the land is like this, so obviously to one side erosion will be more compared to that of the other side. So they cannot really form the paved terraces, right? The erosion on one side, the step-like erosion on the vertical erosion on one side will be totally different from the other side because of the slope, right? Or suddenly because of the unequal distribution of water across the banks, right? So obviously on one side the erosion will be more, the other side the erosion will be less, the forming unpaved terraces, right? If the river is moving like this, right, and if the water is coming at a force, right, in this direction, so obviously in this particular area, how the water is acting is totally different from this area along the curve. So obviously you cannot really see the paved terraces of that particular area because the distribution of water is different from one bank to the other. You understand? Explain. Manju. He's actually lost. You understood? No? Yes. Nice. So, remember the water is actually flowing like this in a linear path, right? When it is actually flowing in a linear path, it cuts the edges perpendicularly, right? The forming one step, right? The gradually what is happening? So, as we can see, as the water moves along many years, so it becomes deeper and deeper. So when it is going deeper and deeper, it starts cutting on the edges perpendicularly, forming step-like structures. Step-like structures. Those are called river terraces. Right? Now, how the river terraces are formed is of two types. Right? Either it can be paved or unpaved. Paved in the sense, the amount of the water which is flowing across the two banks is always the same. Because of which, the way they cut is almost at the same level. Both the terraces are at the same level, right? But what is happening? Sometimes, imagine, right? The slope is like this, right? When the slope is like this, there will be more amount of the water flowing in this direction rather than the other, because it is the up area, and water flows along the gradient, right? The more water will be in this area where the perpendicular cutting or the perpendicular erosion will be more in this, vertical erosion will be more in this direction. So there will be more deeper. The steps will be deeper over here compared to that of the other. So they will not go on the same level. Those are unpaved terraces. Or imagine the river is actually curving, right? When the river is actually curving, so when there is actually flooding that is actually coming. During the flooding, the more amount of the water will be coming, and along the curve, the water will not move at the same velocity on one side compared to that of the other. So at that particular area, so obviously because of amount of water that is acting on the banks is totally different, it might form unpaved terraces rather than the paved terraces, right? So those two kind of river terraces are actually formed, the paved and unpaved. Okay, clear? So river terraces may result due to receding water after peak flow, right? Receding water. So after more amount of the water has actually come in flux, so the water stops coming, right? So because of the receding waters, it may form river terraces, the vertical cutting, and the changes in the hydrological regime due to the climate changes. So the amount of water that is actually flowing across the rivers is actually changing because of the changing in the climate. Because the previously in the Sahara there used to be plenty of vegetation, plenty of rainfall, and gradually the climate change happened. So the landforms changed, right? And tectonic uplift of the land. So obviously we do know. So the slope, right, on one side to the other side. So because of the tectonic uplift, so the landforms might change. So because of the tectonic uplift, we'll have unpaved terraces rather than the paved terraces, right? And the sea level changes in the case of rivers closer to the sea. If they are closer to the sea, right? So the sea level changes. Either sea level is actually increasing or the decreasing. So depending upon the amount of the water that is actually present, the level of the water will actually vary, resulting in the erosion across the banks, forming river terraces. Okay. The next one, depositional landforms. So far we have seen erosional landforms, right? The landforms which are formed because of erosion. Now we will see the landforms resulting by deposition, right? So landforms resulting by deposition. The first one is alluvial fans. So in this alluvial, the most fertile soil, right, which is being brought by the flowing rivers, right? The most important river soil, alluvial. So what is happening? So at the end of the rivers, right, when the rivers are actually moving into the sea, right? So all the soil particles, the velocity of the river decreases because the gradient decreases, and it starts depositing the sediments. So those kind of things are the alluvial fans. How they are depositing? As a fan, right? The form when the streams flowing from the higher levels break into the foot slope plains of low gradient, right? They are flowing from high gradient to low gradient. So here there is no gradient. So the water is flowing, it is completely depositing the sand over that particular area, and from there it cannot carry the soil, forming alluvial fans, right? The entire soil is actually dumped. It is like, have you seen a tractor dumping the soil, right? From the gradient, there is no gradient over here. The entire thing comes forming like a fan. It is of that structure, alluvial fans. No, not always. No. It will come down, it will cover the area, but this is not happening just all of a sudden. The landforms, the landslides, why it is happening? Because there are no plantation over there, because the soil has become so loose and dry. So because of rainfall, and they start coming down. But here, the rivers are actually bringing them, forming the alluvial fans. Yeah, with river. And because there is no gradient over there, they form alluvial fans in that particular area. Right? Suddenly, see here. Is there any gradient? It is actually flat surface. Right? Slow. From high slope, the rivers are flowing. So when the rivers are flowing, they are bringing the sediments. Suddenly, they are entering the regions where there is no gradient. When there is no gradient, what will happen? It will deposit all the sand particles in this particular area, forming alluvial fans. Okay? So, the coarse load is carried by the streams flowing over the mountain slope. This load becomes too heavy for the streams to be carried over the gentler gradients and gets dumped and spread to a broad load to high cone shaped deposits called the alluvial fans. Right? So, at the higher gradient, so obviously the rivers will be moving, and the coarse, not the fine particles, the heavy particles of soil are easily carried when the gradient is there. Right? The larger soil particles, larger rock particles can be easily carried when there is a gradient. Right? So after it moves to the area where there is no gradient or the less gradient, for the water, it becomes very difficult to carry those the larger rock particles. So they get dumped, forming alluvial fans. Right? And the deposition of the alluvial fans will result in distributaries. Right? From here, what is happening? The river splits. right? Forming distributaries, right? So everything is down, right? And there is no gradient. So when there is no gradient, so obviously it splits into different directions. That is the reason why we see more amount of distributaries when it is moving into the sea. Right? At the origin of the river, we see tributaries joining the river, and when it is moving into the sea, near the sea level, so obviously everything gets dumped in that particular area and it splits into different distributaries. Right? So that is how the distributaries are actually formed by deposition. Right? So you understood alluvial fans? Right? Not Allu Arjun fans. Right? Next, deltas. We know deltas very well. The largest delta, Sundarbans Delta. Right? What kind of forests are actually present in the delta? Mangroves. Right? So the mangroves of the forest which are present more in the deltas. Right? So what kind of plant modification can you observe in the mangroves? Roots will be above soil. Receive. Raise your hands. Yes, Monique. Yes, tell me. What do you call that root modification as? Maybe in 2017, I guess, or 2018. Yeah, 2018. You faced the preliminary examination. It asked about this plant modifications in the prelims examination. The plant modifications in the desert areas. That UPSC question, the basic biology question was asked directly from NCERT. What do you call the plant modification as? Or the root modification as? To adapt to a particular condition, the plant is modified. It is not carried from a different organism, it evolved. Yes, exactly. Like cactus. Like cactus, because it has to survive in the dry lands, right? Where there is no amount of water, right? The cactus was modified. Where there are no leaves in cactus. Alright? Can you see any leaves in cactus? No. All of the leaves are modified into spines. The spines are nothing but leaves. Right? The leaves are modified into spines, where the stem has become green to perform photosynthesis. Usually photosynthesis is performed by leaves. Because the leaves are not there, stem is modified to photosynthesis. And the plant has become succulent. That means because the water is not available, it will store the water in its body. Aloe vera, right? It is succulent. It stores water, and it can grow even you do not give more amount of water. Yes, it will grow easily. Yes. Yes, it is succulent. There are many succulent plant varieties, but Rachana, modification. Yes, again, nematophores. That modification is called nematophores. Nematophores, right? PNEU, NEMATOPHERES. Nematophores. Nematophores is silent. I don't know why they follow this silently, right? In our language, there is nothing silent other than too many formalities. That is the reason why it becomes very difficult for us to learn English, right? There are too many words, and the irony is that because the British have actually ruled more than 60 different nations, right? More than 60 different nations, they have taken words from every other nation and they have put it in English. That is the reason why there are more synonyms and antonyms. Right? It is extremely difficult to read Hindi newspaper or the Indian Express newspaper because they will use one of the other word. Right? We'll be using only one word. And the irony is when you check the meaning of a particular word and you do not understand the meaning and you have to search for the meaning of the particular meaning. Have you ever encountered that? So such an irony, right? You do not understand the meaning and you have to search for the meaning for that meaning. See how difficult the English is. So the deltas. The deltas are like alluvial fans but developed at a different location. Right? So they are actually developed, right, deep into the seas. Right? They are developed in the sea, where deposition is actually happening in the sea, right? And the deltas are actually formed there, right? The load carried by the rivers is dumped and spread into the sea, right? So here, the previous alluvial fans, they are not into the sea; they are on the land. Because there is no gradient, the alluvial fans gets dumped and the river splits into distributaries. And after they gets into the distributaries, if there is still more amount of the sand, right, more amount of the depositional things that are actually present. Someone is talking over there. Someone is talking there. No one is talking. Maybe I am hallucinating. Right? Yeah. So there is still a lot amount of the depositions and they move into the sea and they get dumped in the sea. And as we know, within the seas, the shores are shallow and suddenly there will be depths, the continental depths. Right? So they are deposited in the seas, forming deltas. Right? So if this load is not carried away far into the sea or distributed along the coast, it spreads and accumulates as a low code. Right? Like this. Right? They get dumped because they are not carried too far into the sea. Right? So they get deposited. As the delta grows, the river distributaries continue to increase the length and delta continues to build up into the sea. So obviously what will happen? These are the distributaries. Right? These are all the distributaries. And because the deposition continues gradually, the river starts flowing into these deltas, which increases the deltas gradually. Right? That's how our Sundarban's delta became the largest delta in the world. Right? This process has been continuing since millions years. Right? So that is called deltas. So what is the difference between alluvial fans and the deltas? Himaja will answer. It has been a long time I asked you a question. Right? Yeah, even I miss those questions. Yes, answer. You understood alluvial fans? What are alluvial fans? Kannada? Huh? Telugu? Telugu is not varledu. Yeah. Yo, Telugu, where did you go? I mean, obviously, if you are Telugu, you go to Andhra, not that location, exact place. Prakasam district. Okay, what is the city town? Kanigiri. Nice. So tell me, what are alluvial fans in Telugu? I'll translate for them. I can do that. Yes. Did you come yesterday? No? Why? Huh? Yeah, if you go home regularly, so obviously you'll be homesick. That's why. Don't ever go to home. Yes, I can understand because I have been hostel since 2006. Yeah, since 2006 I am staying in hostel. So obviously the day before we come from our home, we'll feel like so low energy. We won't talk to anyone. We'll be sleeping continuously. We won't understand anything. Yeah, I have experienced that. Right? But still we have to push ourselves. Right? Yeah. Alluvial fans? Okay, Dhanu Yoga will answer. What is the difference between alluvial fans and deltas? Talaiva, you're talking. Yeah, I know you're talking. Thanks for asking. Then, inshallah. What is the question? What is the difference between alluvial fans and deltas? Maybe. Let them talk. Oh, okay. I'll explain. I don't know why sometimes I become deaf. I can't listen. Louder. Yeah, your artisan is telling proudly that our BA people are like awesome. Even whatever the question you may ask, they'll tell without any fear. And here you are not talking. Yeah, Kannada, whichever the language. ఏదో భాష చెప్పండి నాకేం ఇబ్బంది లేదు మీకు హిందీ వస్తే ఇంగ్లీష్ చెప్పండి తెలుగులో వస్తే తెలుగులో చెప్పండి కన్నడ వస్తే కన్నడ మలయాళం మలయాళంలో కరై కరై ఈ స్పీకింగ్ మలయాళం కరై యా ఆర్ పిఎస్సి పిఎస్సి తమిళ్ యా కరై యా Depression is not forming here. Depression not. Gradients. Deposition is happening here. Yes. Right. Resulting in a fan structure called the alluvial fans. Right. So when the deltas are formed, that is also the same kind of deposition. Right. But geographically, where the deposition is happening is totally different. Right. In the delta, where the deposition is happening. Wait. In the sea, right? Deposition is happening within the seas, and gradually what is happening? Some surfaces, some substratum is being created where the distributors flow within the deltas, and they keep depositing into the sea more and more amount of the sand, which the delta grows. That is how the deltas are actually formed. Okay, so that is delta. Right. The next one is the floodplains, natural leaves, and the point bars. Right. So the first one, the floodplains. Right. The deposition develops a floodplain. So how the deposition develops a floodplain? This is the reason why floodplains are very fertile, because of the deposition that is happening. Right. Because of the deposition, the floodplains are very fertile because they have alluvial soil. Right. So yeah, the riverbed made of river deposits is the active floodplain. So what do you mean by the riverbed made of river deposits? So we have the riverbed, right, which is actually made up of river deposits. Not always it is actually made up of the river deposits, right? Because the floodplain may not be very active, right? So over the period of time, what will happen? The depositions which are actually present on the banks of the rivers, they are not the actual, that they are not the result of the floods. So that the riverbed, which is actually made up of river deposits, we call it an active floodplain. That means, so we have the rivers which are flowing in this direction, right? So if the riverbed which have the active deposits, right, we have the deposits over here, so that is called the active floodplain. So gradually what will happen? It will change its path, right? It will change its path, where in this particular area the same deposits may not be present, the older deposits present. That is not the active floodplain. Okay, you understood the difference? The active floodplain and the floodplain above the bank is the inactive floodplain. So above the bank, right, whatever the area is actually present, that is inactive floodplain, because the depositions happen long back, not the active depositions. Right? You are understanding? Nothing. So remember, there is a path, a drainage, right? So imagine the drain is very dry. So you are pouring water, right? So when you're pouring water, along with the water, some particles are actually flowing into the drain, right? So that seed bed, that bed is there, right? The bottom of the river. That river bed is called the active floodplain, right? That is the active floodplain. So what is happening? So when you put on more amount of the water has come out and they got deposited over here. But that depositions, the floodplains which were initially formed, right? Now the depositions are now after some time the depositions will not happen in that particular area again. So that is inactive floodplain, right? That means right. So in the seabed, the depositions happen, right? Sorry, riverbed, right? In the riverbed, the depositions happen continuously, right? So this is called active floodplain, that area, right? And anything outside, right? That is also a floodplain which was initially formed because of the flooding or because of the movement. Now the depositions are not happening in that area, right? Those are inactive floodplains. River, it will find a new path. Yes. 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 When the depositions are happening right now in the bed,